I think my staff's getting tired of me quoting Marshawn Lynch, but like he still said it best. Like he's about that action, right?
Like on purpose, no matter where the location of the pitch is, you crazy fool. Like I'm telling you right now, there is not one hitter on the planet.
Fellas. I don't know about that, but you know what? I'll save it for 12 months from now. We'll talk about it in 12 months. Yeah.
Don't leave that dugout. We got Bo and Joe coming up next on the Farm System, right here, right now.
Welcome back to another episode of the Farm Unfiltered. Sitting down with my boys, my boy over there, Bo Callis. Go ahead and introduce
Here we
yourself,
are,
guys.
baby. You guys know me by now, hopefully.
Yeah.
Bo Callis here with my boy Joe.
Yeah.
We got the farm phone, we got the Air Farm ones, and we got
On board.
got the puppy dogs in here too.
Hey, I'm not gonna even lie to you. Some of the stuff up here, my mom hooked me up for my birthday, and she's a savage for that. Like,
Joe
it worked out.
Joe
good.
was a little bit unsure, but
I think it played
she
out
nailed
well.
it, bro.
I honestly think she did great. The Air
think
Farm
she nailed
ones
it.
are really showcased. We also had the farm phone, and then also too. Let's not go any farther with also telling you houses on the mic. Our boy Cody Martin. Go ahead and tell the people what's
KM,
up.
baby.
Yeah. No, I got no video on me today. We're working through some technical.
He's got
difficulties.
he's got
with the
he's got
camera,
a face that's fit for radio.
but
It is.
tough for the camera.
Yeah,
but
tough for the
it is.
camera. Yeah,
soothing voice.
yeah. We'll get them all ironed out. But today we're gonna get into something. I might step on your toes a little bit, but I know Bo definitely gonna choke slam you, hit you with the people's elbow. Cody,
Trying.
and then as soon as you're down, Cody's sliding in and punching you in the ribs. But
We tag teaming it today.
we getting in. Let's do it. It's your fault. It's your fault. That's what it comes down to. It's your fault. It was my fault. It was Bo's fault.
It usually is.
It was Cody's fault. It was your fault. It's your fault. And this is what I was talking about earlier, Bo. I kind of wanted to start out with this, is that 90% of the things that are happening in our lives, right? Or 90%, and that has nothing to do just with baseball. That's just in general. 90% of the stuff that's happening with us is our fault,
Yep.
right? Not consciously, obviously,
Yep.
right? But I think that that's a big part of coaching that I've constantly realized over and over again is like issues I'm having with my athletes, problems we're having with our company, anything that I'm dealing with day to day, my relationships, yada, 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 that 90% of that is
Yeah.
my fault.
What I'll do is I'm going to give you Michael Scott.
Michael Scott.
I
Okay.
see your situation, and I'll raise your situation. I think it's 100% our fault, because even if it isn't, it's how we're perceiving the situation, right? So a good majority are the decisions we make, but take it a step further. How are you perceiving it, and how am I internalizing this to even project at all that it isn't my fault? I think that is part of your fault.
Yeah.
It's like a little paradox there.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's obviously that initial feeling that we constantly want to go to as well is that thought process of like, okay, well, how is my daughter getting cancer my fault? Right? There's that answer, that backwards, right?
Yeah.
And so I think on that other end, that's where it comes in with the perception side, and also too, again, not getting super deep into like your religious beliefs or any of those other things of what gives you foundation of how your perception of things that are happening in your life like that and how you perceive those. But what we more so, the big piece here is like, first off is just the mindset piece, right? Is if you go into things with extreme ownership, right? And you go into those things of like, okay, like there's parts in all of these situations that I can own, right? And also too, like it gets into other situations where like, yeah, like things do happen to us, right? Even, you might be a random victim, wrong place, wrong time. Again, like there's a lot of things. And also too, when it comes into like, not to blame, cancer on anybody individually, but there is certain things that like we can own throughout. Like, for example, like diet wise, I can clean it up, right?
Yeah.
Exercise wise, right?
Definitely.
Like I can be more consistent, or there is a lot of things too that are just like more hereditary. And for example, you might be doing what you're doing exactly what somebody else is doing. But for you genetically, like you're more prone to certain things, right?
Definitely.
So it's not so much, and again, not to go so down the medical route of, like, okay, this is 100% your fault. No, it's not 100% your fault,
Yeah.
right? But 90% of the things that are happening within our life, right, or especially when it comes as a hitting coach, and that's more so where we're going to focus, right, is more on that mindset of okay, like 90% of this is probably something that I'm doing, teaching, allowing to happen, participating in, whatever those things are, and kind of wanted to talk through those and give like, specific examples of like many times where just blatantly like I was fucking up.
100%.
And
I think it starts to, and not to take it at what it is. Every relationship we're in, I'm 50% responsible, no matter what. That's life in general. Now we take in consideration that I'm the coach. I'm the one that should know better than the athlete. And we can't take ownership. It should teeter a little bit more, 50%. And the fact that I can't even own that 50% of this relationship is me, and then more than that is because I'm giving you the information. I'm the doctor.
Yeah.
You have a moral responsibility to say, this is my fault.
Yeah.
I know you're not doing what I'm telling you to do, but it's how I'm saying it to you, or I'm prescribing you the wrong information, dressing it up, whatever. It's your fault.
Well, also too, I just wanted to put the side note directly to you. If you're over here being an accountant and looking into the percentages and trying to figure out exactly what percentage is your fault, that's the problem. Okay, let's just start there.
Just take ownership.
Just start there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Again, great leaders also own more than again, like great leaders take more responsibility when things go wrong and give out more credit when things go right.
Yep.
Right. And so I think that that's part of the thing as well. Like you as a coach, it doesn't matter if it's 60% your fault or 62%, 62.789, 12, your fault. That's great. At the end of the day, you should be owning that more. Like to your perfect example is like you're being the coach and you're the one that's leading. And also too, like you're also older. So you've had more time to figure it out. Right. So on that other note, like, yeah, there is, and from the opposite way, this also is not a scapegoat for you as a player to go, well, it's 90% my coach's fault. He's an asshole. No, yeah, for sure. But also 90% of the things that are happening in your life are your fault.
Yep.
So that's also, you picked the school that you wanted to go to, right? You made a commitment to X, Y, and Z. You didn't vet that guy if it's really the guy that you just knew it wasn't going to work out with. And also too, once you're there, you're also owning, okay, well, how can I make this relationship X, Y, and Z? How can I, again, best facilitate this relationship? What are other resources I can point to? Am I also asking something of a coach that is really not solely his responsibility?
Yep.
My career is not solely his responsibility. There's plenty of other resources out there for me to lean into where if I'm missing something, I can go look in some other directions and not putting that all on him.
Well, that's what I was going to say. At some point in your career, we've all been there. All three of us have played at a high enough level. You gain a certain awareness and understanding that I know he doesn't know everything that I need to know. Mm-hmm. And that's where the ownership falls back on the player. Yes, it is his responsibility to tell you the right information, but it's also your responsibility as a grown adult to say, I'm more aware now than I was, and call it out. Yeah. Sometimes we'll do that where it's like, Joe, you're falling short here. It's a blind spot. Or Bo, you're falling short here. Cody doesn't understand what you're trying to train him. Yeah. It is a give and take. And of course it takes a certain level of awareness and growth and development in your career till you get to that perspective where it's like, I also realize a lot of coaches are fucked up. Like they just don't know. They're trying their best, but there is some accountability as the player. Like you said, like at the end of the day, you have to put your hat on your career. So, and I always felt that way from when I was young. When I was like 13, I felt like, I think I'm getting the wrong information here. And being respectful about it, but also being like, at the end of the day, I have to sign my name on my career at the end of the day.
And I think with that 90% comment, where it really comes back to is there's more for you to own than what you're owning.
It's
always.
It's just like a parent.
Yeah.
Like, and they're not our kids. Yeah. But you have a certain responsibility to guide them. Where it is a 50-50 relationship, but I know better than you. I have more wisdom. I'm older. Yeah. And as a leader, you should just take more ownership. Yeah.
And also too, on the other end of just being like, I think when it comes back to that insecurity thing of being like, it's okay that it's your fault. So what?
For sure.
So what? Like, again, it's also like, it's like that old quote, right? Like, my bad gets us beat, right? Which it also puts this precedent that like, I used to laugh at that when we're on the field, like some guy who boots a ball and he's like, yo, my bad, bro. That's on me. And I'm like, well, it's not on me, bro. I didn't feel the ground ball. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I used to do that, right? Where it's like, it's not, and there's nothing wrong where you're like, in some sense, it's still like a place of ownership of like you acknowledging like, yo, I made a mistake.
Right.
You know, which is, there's nothing bad with that, right? But also too, there's a plenty of guys that are just like, yo, my bad. And it's like, yo, it's like, you're my batting a lot.
Yeah.
And now it's like almost saying like, I'm sorry, but not meaning it.
Exactly.
Right. Like, okay, I'm okay that you booted that ground ball. When I see you all week long taking extra ground balls after practice and doing your thing and you're like, you booted it. Like, for example, like, dude, like when we're in games, like you are our dude, right? So like when you booted a ball or threw a ball away, I never was like, that guy sucks. Like, how the hell could that guy do that? Like I wasn't pissed.
Yeah.
Right. Cause we all knew in that same route, like you're there early taking ground balls, right? Or you're taking ground balls right next to me when I'm taking ground balls, right? Yeah. And then like you're also too on that other perspective of being like other ways that you're obviously playing into the team and everybody's like making mistakes and like things like that.
Right.
But that's where it comes in this relationship where, and we also have good coaches at the time where again, like I do my junior college coach, I don't care if you made 99 out of 100, you missed that one, and it's like on a crack.
Yeah, your ass is grass.
Yeah, your ass is grass. Yeah. You be in the dugout slamming some. You fucking suck. Like in the dugout, you're like not your own coach in the dugout.
No.
You fucking sucks.
I played for one of those guys.
Yeah. Like, are you kidding me? That's a routine play. Like, yeah, I get it. I know. I'm the one that booted it. So for sure,
100%.
You know, and again, I think that's another thing about coaching is like knowing your guys. There's definitely a point when you need to get on guys. I'm not saying that.
Definitely.
But a lot of the time, dude, 90%, we're going to go high percentages on all of these things. 90% of the time, no one feels worse than the guy that just booted the ball.
100%.
I mean, there's not too many guys that boot a ball and they're like, oh well. Like, it's just like,
100%.
oh, too bad. Like, whatever.
What does yelling at the guy do? He already's beat.
Yeah.
He's already beat. He's already upset.
Yeah.
He's already thinking. You're already a high-level achiever.
Yeah.
Everybody in the stadium knows he fucked up.
Yeah.
You booted one.
Yeah.
And one thing I do hate that you brought up, and my wife, we were working through some stuff, and she made a great example. She said, and this isn't for me, it's just in general.
Yeah.
Lying without changed behavior is manipulation. And so many players manipulate themselves by saying my bad, but not really taking ownership of the mistake you made.
Yeah.
It's
real ownership is doing the work to fix it.
But it's
so it doesn't happen.
eyewash. It's like, my bad. But then it happens again and happens again.
Yeah.
Stop saying my bad. Just go take some more ground balls full.
Yeah. Well, and it's also to say too, like that's where the grace and like some mercy and some other things show up too as well. Is like, yo, this isn't to say, oh well, I said my bad, so that means that I'm never gonna boot a ground ball again.
Right.
We are all gonna boot ground balls. Like we're all gonna make like all of those things are gonna happen. But like with that being said, it's just like when guys are getting after it, and like when they are doing their job, like you're going to have a lot more grace with those guys, especially in a lot of different situations. And I think what a big piece that we like want to go back to with as well is like when I was coaching, and again, I hope like one of my players, I'd love for them to pop in at some point and say that I'm not just blowing smoke here, is that 90% of the time, my role as a coach and what I always wanted, because I was on the other side, and I had a lot of coaches the other way, then when my guys booted ground balls, I'd be like, hey, it's all right, play the game.
Yep.
That was like 90% of the time my response. Hey, it's okay. Hey, play the game. Hey, get the next one.
100%.
Hey, like especially too is like our stud shortstop or something. I'd be like, yo, it's okay. Like play the game.
For sure.
Right? Like make the because again, I'm more trying to get him more back locked in.
Yep.
Right? Because like I already know he feels bad.
100%.
So what am I going to do? Because now what happens is I compound the issue by continuously, again, getting on them again. Well, now he boots the second ball, right? Like, and again, like, let's say in that scenario, right? Like, you booted that. I remember that one time. It was like, like 3 errors in the same inning or something like that.
A couple times.
A couple times. Well, the one time I can remember,
It was
right?
in
Like
the conference tournament, probably.
Yeah, and but then also too, like your next AB, you hit like a jack, like 450 or something. Yeah, it's like dead center. He's like, yeah, don't forget about that. but no, I mean that was the thing, and that's what I used to do. I actually played my best defense when I wasn't hitting, and I also hit my best usually when I wasn't playing good defense
That's the
because
same.
I would tell myself like, yo, I got to contribute. I got to find a way to contribute here. So I would like, okay, you know, hey, like now it's my time, right? This is my
Definitely.
time, which is a different mindset, right? A lot of people also like it snowballs
Yeah.
and they just get bad at everything.
Yeah.
But I had evolved into that other place of being like, you know, I get on defense and I'd be like, I'm a wall. Like
For sure.
I used to tell myself that. I remember in my head, like, I'm a wall. There is no ball getting past me. I don't care. I don't care if he hits at 112. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to field it.
Yeah,
but it's
going to stay here.
It's staying right here.
Staying here.
And that was my mindset. Like, but again, I also grew up as a goalie. I grew up as a catcher.
Yeah.
Right. So when
Backstop.
so when I got to that spot of being like, I know how to put my body in front of the ball and put those in a collision course, and that there's no ball that's going to get past me right now. And that was kind of my mindset of getting switched over, and like that's when I made some of my best plays.
Yep.
Or it came up really clutch for my team and locked in and hit like a ground ball to second base, or
Right.
hit a double, or hit, you know, like some of those other things because I had made an error earlier in the game or whatever that
100%.
looked like, you know. So
Well, it's a good mindset because baseball, we used to say, my coach at Utah Valley used to say, baseball is it's the greatest equalizer, and it's going to find you. It's going to find fear and adversity.
Yeah.
And it's going to give you the opportunity right away.
yeah,
So your point that you made with your players, it's exactly what I did when I was coaching at the college level was you stay in that spot, it's going to come again. Like
for sure.
probably the next ball.
Yeah, especially when you don't want it.
That inning when I booted those 3 balls
Yeah.
after the first one,
Yeah.
I was already swimming in
Plus
my
the
head.
team,
and
plus the other
here
team
comes-
can see it.
They know.
Yeah. So like they're like,
they'll put the pressure on.
yeah,
you. They can
100%.
sense it.
Or I used to think like, yo, if I just roll to the 6 hole,
He'll boot
those
it.
guys are gonna shortstop can't field a backhand and
You
throw it
can't
across
throw
the
it.
diamond.
Yep.
And then again, the third baseman again it can't move.
Yeah.
He's just gonna pick something. Or again, he's booted like 3 already. Like, dude,
Yeah.
if I just had think of the confidence that builds in a hitter to be like, if I
100%.
just roll
Just
over
roll
one
it
now,
over.
like we're great.
100%.
We're fine.
That's why I always preach, like, at least carry yourself with confidence, and
Yeah.
neurologically your body will catch up.
For
But
sure.
if they sense the weakness, it's like a predator, man. You
Yeah.
sense weakness, they'll jump, and
For sure.
a good coach knows.
Yeah.
I remember playing Oklahoma Wesleyan, man. Those guys bunted like 5 times in a row because the guy we had at third just struggling.
Yeah.
And you can see it
Yeah.
after 3 or 4. He's playing in, they slash and hit one down the line. Next
Yeah,
thing
it's
you
in
know,
his-
the
you're in
kid's
his
like
head.
in the middle of the inning. We're
Yeah.
making a switch, but
Yeah, you're in a
it is.
If there's one thing that is the most embarrassing thing is defensive change in the middle of an inning. Oh my
Well,
god,
I'm
that's
pretty
terrible.
sure. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Dink,
that hurts.
Dink was savvy. He'd
Yeah.
always do it with like a pitching change or.
Yeah.
There were moments
Still.
in my career, but
Oh,
it's still
rough.
The roughest one is when outfielders have to do that, bro. I'm
Oh
like,
no, and you have to run in from the whole outfield.
no pitching change.
Oh no, that's brutal. That's brutal. Yeah, that's
tough.
that in the middle of it. I even think that you have to be really careful when you do that because you're like, okay, lose the game,
Yeah,
right? Lose the game because what you don't want to do is also lose the player.
and the team.
Yeah.
More
like,
outfit.
and then you start thinking like, yo, that's embarrassing. Like, I don't want that to happen to me. And then also too, the rest of the team starts kicking it.
Yep.
Right. And so like, that's the other thing of being like safe. Like I used to tell the same thing too. And don't get me wrong. I was more an assistant coach in that role. So like a lot of times I didn't have complete say, but I more operated as like an associate,
Right.
like head coach. So like a lot of times, like I would tell guys like, you're not coming out.
Yeah,
Like I would tell you guys like
You're dealing with it.
you're staying in the lineup. I don't care if you strike out 7 times today. Like
A good s-
I want you to know that you're not coming out.
a good story about that. After my Tommy John surgery, I'd lost. I still struggle a little bit feeling in my fingers. Quick story: I was short tossing at 108, and I developed the yips, and I'm coming out the backside of it. Funny story about Joey, man. We're doing an eval or something, and I couldn't throw a ball for a strike, man. It was front toe. It was humiliating. Joey just goes, "Keep your ass in there, Bo. You're tossing until you can't fucking throw a ball anymore." Took me like 25 pitches. Everybody's laughing. Me and Joey are dead ass serious. He's like, "You're gonna figure it out today, son.
Yeah, like you're not coming out.
You're gonna learn."
Yeah, well, because that's the thing is like it's like, well, and it's just a mindset thing. And also, to be fair, that's also my mindset of just being like, you're going to stay in the struggle. Like, you're going to stay here. You're not going to avoid this struggle. Like, this struggle is what's going to get you to this other place that you're not afraid anymore.
Well, and you
Like,
can't run from
fail
it.
enough.
Baseball,
you aren't
you-
scared anymore.
You're gonna fail 70% of the side of the offensive side,
Yeah.
and you're gonna fail a pretty good amount on the defensive side.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to deal with it.
Well, and also too, like the other thing, like some people, like again, it's like traumatizing. They also think about it like within pain of them thinking like, okay, well, I don't want to be in this situation anymore. And there is a place here where like you can save some humiliation to not build like some type of trauma. But even then, I think it's more like aftercare.
Yep.
And so what I mean by like aftercare, if you're not kind of familiar with like more the psychology side, is more like aftercare where like, let's say you get in an argument with like your kid or a player or your friend or whatever, right? You guys get into an argument and you might have been 100% right to have that argument, right? Or to call them out on something or hold them accountable, right? That's okay. But then also doing the secondary conversation where you come up and you're like, hey, like, I love you. You know, I really care about you. And this is why I'm talking to you about these things, because I know this will be so important for you in X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's like the other piece is like a lot of people don't do aftercare.
Yeah.
Right. And they just like rip into a kid and then they just leave it and then just let that relationship hole be there.
Boil.
Where and not come in with security and because that's really, I want to bet that majority of coaches, it is coming from a good place.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't know how to communicate how they feel, really
100%.
well. But
especially when they're fired up.
100%. And you can be super passionate, but that's why I think it's so important on the other side of like reconcile. Right. And that's kind of that aftercare of just being like, hey, like, look, like I'm putting you back in the lineup tomorrow, or, hey, I'm putting you back, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you do something like super embarrassing to the kid, is like, you got to put yourself in that situation as a coach. Like, and also too, sometimes we treat players like how we were treated, like, oh, my coach would have pulled my ass out. Well, just because your dad used to do this or your coach used to do that doesn't mean that that's how you handle that situation, or that it's the only way to handle that situation, especially with a lot of your players aren't you.
Yep.
Hello.
Yeah.
A lot of your players are not you.
You're trying to coach, and that's just a human trait. We project how we associate and how we interpret things with how we're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how a lot of teachers lose students. It's not you. You're not teaching to you.
For sure.
You're teaching to the player.
Yeah.
And depending on what age you're at, it's very like when you're young, you need to do that. If you don't do the follow-up care, you're basically just manipulating them and fearing them into doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
And now the player has an insecurity.
Yeah. And I'm saying a lot of times it doesn't work.
fear.
It just makes it worse. And that's where I'm saying where it goes like 90% of it is your fault. Well, you know why? All of a sudden, like, for example, like in junior college, me and you talked about this the other day, is my junior college coach used to say, hey, like your summer league coach says that you play like outstanding defense.
Yep.
You don't play outstanding defense for me, not here. You must not be playing high level. It's like, yo, everybody I'm playing is D1 athletes.
Right.
Like all where I'm wanting to go. I'm the youngest guy on the team. But when I play on that team, I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
Because he coaches me different. He sits in the dugout, and when I make an error, he's not going to pull me. Right. Or when I make an error, he's not going to call me an idiot in the dugout. Or when I make an error, like, X, Y, and Z. Or, and also on the opposite end, right? Like there's different techniques, like, and it's different with other people. Some other people, right? Like there's certain people that when they would do that, it would get me fired up.
Right.
And I play better. Right. Where like, I'm like, screw that guy. Like, you think I can't play D? Or like, but a lot of times that more happened for me personally was when it was from the other team. When the other team started talking smack, or the other team started saying, oh, hit him the ball. I'm like, yeah, hit me the ball.
Hit me the ball.
Yeah. Like, yeah, put me up the bat. Like that's when I got, but when it was like my own team, or especially like my head coach, for me, I'm like, yo, like you're my squad.
Yeah, you're supposed to have my back.
Yeah, you're supposed to have my back.
Yeah.
Right. Where the other team, I'm like, I'm supposed to have my back. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go. You know what I'm saying? And like I get fired up.
Right.
But that was the other thing is like, yo, I played really good defense when I was in the summer league and those other things. And also too, I was also allowed to be a little like swaggy.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
You're allowed to play a little bit loose and free, how you want to play.
100%.
The toughest thing for me in college, because I was a better fielder than I was defender, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I get the ball in my glove almost every time. But developed the yips a little bit at Utah Valley because the box, instead of trying to operate in the box and like constraining, like coaches always say, play aggressive, make errors being aggressive,
aggressive errors.
Aggressive errors.
Yeah.
But the way that I was internalizing the message was like very, it was almost like debilitating to where it was taking away my aggression.
Yeah.
So now when I make an error, I'm even more frustrated because it's like I can't be who I want to be because of the way I'm being coached.
Yeah.
Even though that wasn't the intention.
Yeah.
But that's like the disconnect between coach and student is that like you're placing me in a box and I'm supposed to be athletic.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say that as like, again, that's a perfect example of how because to me, when it was like play aggressive, like that cue really helped me.
Always.
It really helped me. Like, okay, I'm gonna go get everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get everything. Right. I started getting in trouble, and most infielders do, when they start like waiting, right?
Yeah.
Like where it's that extra in between hop, or again, like I'm gonna go pick my hop,
Right.
right? I'm gonna go pick where I want to field the ball rather than waiting and playing whatever hop I'm getting, right?
Right.
And again, especially at like second base, it could be awful.
Eat me up.
Right? First base, I played first base for when I got hurt a couple times, even worse.
That's
Because you're
tough.
like, all I got to do is walk over to this bag.
Yeah.
So you just start waiting on everything.
Lazy feet,
You
yeah.
know, but then also too, you ever seen those first basemen that start being like shortstops, and you're like, yo, bro, you're at first base, like
Yeah.
drop your knee and just
For
body
sure.
up, you know? Like, because
sure.
that's the cool part, right? Because you can get in that mindset where it's like, if I body up, I flip it and we're good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're all good. But like,
Did you like to play deep at third? I know Cody and I were talking about that the other day.
depending on the field.
Depending on the field.
Yeah, like if I thought their dirt was shit, if I thought their dirt was shit, like I wanted to be screw all those, I would get up. But if I trusted their dirt, and again, it just depended on the different fields that because especially too, you know how like where normal third basemen stand, I had a really good arm, so I wanted to stand deep
Yeah.
in general because I had wider angles and I could throw a hose across the diamond.
Right.
So I didn't mind playing deep. So I used to play real deep, but the problem is that where the third baseman would normally stand, there would be a divot,
Yes,
right?
You'd have to.
So then it would get me that weird hop. So then I started like, okay, either I'm going to play real deep or I'm going to play real up.
Yep.
Depending on the I hardly played normal unless I had to cover a bag or like I was kind of forced to be in that spot.
Right.
And then also too, I mean, obviously, again, if you play more aggressive, the problem is when like when you're playing third, a lot of times you're fielding exactly where you're standing.
Yeah.
Especially when balls are like smoked, unless it's either real hard or real soft. It's that third base is kind of like that
Right.
constantly, right? It's like
Not
you're
really
going to
in
smoke
between.
show,
Yeah.
or you're going to have to go get everything,
Right.
So, so I for me personally, that was kind of like,
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
didn't trust myself late in my career, man.
Yeah, well,
'Cause
the
arm
throwing is
issues,
different. Yeah.
I mean, it was torn. I think
Yeah. I played up a lot. Like you
Yeah.
said, I played up a lot. Once I hurt my arm, I did play up
I had
a ton.
just
because I had to
didn't
play.
trust,
That's how I had to
I
play.
didn't trust the depth.
Yeah.
It put me in some pretty funny positions, but
Yeah.
me and you both had pretty good gloves.
Yeah.
Was it? I mean, we'll keep it
No,
within
no,
perimeter to throw the ball across the infield.
I'll agree with you there. I had a good glove. The feet could have been better. You know what I'm saying? But
He says I had a good glove, but it looked better on the shelf.
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, that to be fair, I had some swaggy
did.
stuff.
You did.
That was the other thing though. But again, I think on the other end, we can go on the psychology side of this. I think it's super important is that a lot of guys, a lot of coaches, especially again, I'm not to harp on my JC coach, but I just realized some things of like why I played how I did. And again, not to
Let
blame
it
it on
out,
him,
baby.
not to blame it on him.
Farm therapy
because there's a
sessions.
lot of things he really did for me that were really great, but also too one thing that he did for a lot of players, and he just did this thing across the team. And I want to bring this up because a lot of coaches do this.
Yeah.
He had us no batting gloves, no armbands, no anything. It was like you wear everything. Everybody looked the exact same.
Yep.
Right. And again, you got to take this in, right? Some people, it's like, well, that's how I play, so it doesn't affect me. All great. Right.
Yep.
And then you also got the other side where I came from Vegas,
Yep.
where everything's real flashy.
Yep.
And that's how I played. And also, too, which I think we need to be more open with this. I don't know. You tell me if you were. But when I was younger, I was a little insecure.
For sure.
All right. So, and again, as adults, a lot of us are very insecure about certain things. So when we go into those, and a lot of times we're not aware of that, we talked about that in the blind spot episode. But for example, during the summer, guess what? I got to wear all my swaggy stuff. I got to wear my arm sleeve. I got to have and then again I would play during the fall. He would let us play with whatever we wanted, but then season came and then he would tell us what how we had to wear stuff.
Yep.
And it's like, well, I've also played really good during the fall.
Yep.
We talked about that the other day too. I also played very good during the fall because during the fall he didn't care about winning and losing. So guess what? The whole team used to play really good. And then season came and then he cared. And because he cared, he would kind of be an asshole.
Right.
Right.
Put the pressure
So
on.
then all of a sudden we'd start playing like crap and he'd be like, well, why are we playing like crap? Well, because you're coaching different.
100%.
Right. And for me, again, it's like that old mindset of like when it hits the fan, right? Like when things go bad, when things go bad and I'm kind of going into this other place of, look, I wanted to look the part because it helped me feel like the part and gave me more security while I was playing
100%.
because I had some other insecurities and other things from like how I was growing up and things like that.
Yep.
And so when you took those other things away from me, right, and that's where it comes into being like a player coach and kind of letting guys do their own thing. We talk about this as tissue, like soft tissue or whatever, tissue in your body. Tissue doesn't have free will, but also too, like, really too, a lot of things that are happening to us when we're younger, right? Like we're not doing these things for no reason. A lot of times it's always tied back to something, usually subconscious, of like why I like to do certain things or why I like to be certain ways. And so I think that that's super important, is that as a coach, you need to, again, like know your athlete, as Randy Sullivan would say there, right? And also the tissue being free will things, also Randy Sullivan thing. But just being like, knowing your athlete, of being like, yo, like that's his style.
Yeah.
Like, and that's okay.
You have to
let him do his thing.
As a coach, you have to let your players be authentic. And insecure coaches develop insecure players.
100%.
So
leaders, period.
Leaders, people
Parents.
across the board, parents, all of them. What I was going to say with that, though, and not to get on our soapbox and poor me, that's just take it as you want. Our generation, like this millennials, we were kind of raised in this like transition to flashy, but like being conditioned by coaches that wanted it old school.
Yep.
And so like I personally was all about like the grind, and I like embraced it, and I thought I was like, and I do have blue collar in me, but I also have some showy. Like that's just how I like to play.
Yeah.
And so like I thought I had to be a certain way, and I tried to be somebody I wasn't.
Yeah.
To play at this high level, when it was like, just be yourself, man. And I wasn't necessarily in the best environment to, but that's like the biggest thing I think I see with coaches now is like, just let your players be who they are. And if it's not the right fit, have the conversation. Like you're trying to cage these people or get them to do something they can't do or that they don't want to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was the thing too, as well, is that he did have a point in the same way that like a lot of times I wanted to look like a superstar rather than go and train. He's trying to get me to have a mentality, right, by like how I did things. And so also with that being said, like the issue that was so important with that, that was so big, is that just like understanding there that, hey, like you are also have a certain way of doing things, and like you not having batting gloves on, like for example, if you're a guy that's more like country, right? You're more country, you're more, work ethic, you're more XY, whatever that is, right? If you're more of those things, right? You're dressing the part. You don't want to wear batting gloves. You don't want to wear these other things. You want to be, because that is also how you play.
Right.
But now you're forcing somebody else to play how you play, right? And you're saying like, this is superior, right?
For sure.
And again, don't get me wrong. Like I said, in a lot of ways, he made me more like, but I was already a grinder. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I just dressed different, right? And so there was more going on than like, oh yeah, let me just change his clothing, and all of a sudden, he'll play how I want him to play. And also there's a lot of that, like, this is who made me who I was, which
for sure,
in reality of being like, okay, well, you also, your life, how you played, the levels that you played at, also the bats that you hit with,
the era,
the whole thing, like, also let's not forget, most of your players don't want to be you.
100%.
Hello. They don't want to be you.
For sure.
They don't want to be you.
Yep.
They want to be them. Right. And so that's that other part of being like, we're trying to train everybody to be us.
Yep.
Right. Which is like that we miss that.
100%. Our job is to, one, do no harm.
Yeah.
And two, it's not, sometimes we get too caught up with good intention about the game. Like, our job as a coach is to develop the person too.
Don't run past that, bro. Don't run past that. I know someone did take that in. Somebody is being the moral police for baseball.
100%.
Stop it. I remember I used to be playing, people would walk past, like I'd be hitting BP on the field or something like that during the summer. and someone would be like, I had my shirt off, like, you know, it's like 112 outside, right? And the guy, and somebody would be like, bro, respect the game, man. Respect the game. I'm like, stop.
What do you mean?
What do you like?
Explain to me what they mean though.
No.
Because they would say that. I mean, I didn't do it with the shirt off, but sometimes I'd be like, what do you mean?
But that
This is how I show my respect for the game.
Yeah, but that would be the thing though. Like, that would be the thing is that, like, the big piece there and where I would be is just like, we'd have these conversations of being like, yo, like, who's respecting the game? I'm out here in 112 degrees getting extra BP in while you're going to watch the softball girls play their thing, and then you're going to go home and chug beers till the end of the night.
Yep.
So is all of a sudden your respect for the game, like, do I come to your house while you're drinking at night and when you're in JUCO and be like, yo, respect the game and also respect the law? You know?
100%.
No. Like,
100%.
stop being the damn moral police.
Well,
you know?
and we all love the game.
For sure. We just do it. We love it differently
Just
too.
because you love it differently don't mean you love it any more than me, bro.
100%. And also,
and
too,
that would get me fired up because now it takes us in another thing where it's like, look, and a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but like, and I used to say this to Jake Shimmons. I actually was texting him this morning, so shout out Shims. I used to say, man, you work too hard. But then I got to the point where I'm like, that's what he needs.
Yeah,
If
that
he
makes
needs
him
to
feel
take
ready.
3 hours of ground balls after
sure.
practice, do it.
Do your thing.
It wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
But people would attack me too.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you wouldn't make as many errors if you went out there and threw the ball more. I'm like,
Here we
Garth.
go. No, the only reason and then it would be the opposite way. It's like, actually, like, I remember this. Won't call the coach out here, but call out the action. You know why your arm probably hurts? Because you don't throw enough.
Classic.
My labrum was torn and my rotator cuff was torn in 2 places. Now, at the time, we didn't know. And again, for some guys, that's true.
Yeah.
Right. But again, statements like that is just like understanding with that. It's like, especially for guys that are really like guys that do work hard and like some of those things is, again, like, you got to understand like what mentally that can do with guys.
100%.
And just being like, again, like, first off, and also that's just not really knowing your player in the same end. Like, I was the guy that used to throw way too much.
Yeah.
Way too much. I played way too much catch.
Yeah,
I played.
You got after it.
Yeah, like I
remember.
and again, if you think of like mentality wise, like, I was always the guy that was doing a lot.
Yeah.
So like with that, it's like, well, maybe because you're not throwing enough. It's like, no, it's probably a red flag if I'm not doing something.
Right.
Because like there's probably a lot of pain or there's something going on that, like, is forcing those things to happen.
100%.
But I wanted to go back to the other thing of being like, yo, like, I also during the summer we have different, again, this also comes back to like different ways of growing up. I also too just played a long season. I don't know if you guys have this, but I used to have a pretty nasty farmer's tan.
Oh yeah.
When at the end of the year, right? So when I was out there training for summer, or really it was like the season was over. We didn't make playoffs because we sucked. Okay, and so we'd have a couple months before we actually went home.
Right.
Right. And so before we'd go home, like, I'd still be working. Like, I guess I'm going to go into a summer league. I'm going to do all these other things. But also, too, I'm going in the summer. I'm like, I got this nasty farmer's tan. So while I'm getting my work in, I'm already out here in the sun. I'm going to take my shirt off and hit.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and again, it's so stupid, like, even to the point of, like, there needs to be a defense. But it's just, like, on that other end, it's just being, like, going back to the mentality of so many old school guys right now of being, like, oh, well, like, you need to respect the game. Don't pimp homers. Don't do this. Don't do that. You this is not respecting the game. Like, no, that's how you were taught, right? And that's how you showed your love and passion for the game. But it's also okay that someone that grew up in the Dominican and how they grew up falling in love with the game, it's okay that they have a different mentality than you. Right. It's okay that they have a different love and a different way of expressing their passion for something.
100%.
That's fine. And again, if it hurts your feelings, it doesn't. You play how you want to play.
Play how you want to play.
You play how you want to play, and they're going to play how they want to play, and it's okay. And also on the other end, throw and hit him in the ribs.
Yeah.
Do your thing. But also on the other end, if he comes out there and whoops your ass on the mound,
yep,
you're getting it right back.
My favorite line that a lot of those coaches would say to me would be like, when you're on TV and you're as good as Ken Griffey Jr., you can pimp it. And I'm saying, fool, why do you think he's doing that on TV? Because he always did that shit.
Yeah.
When he was 7 years old, he was pimping home runs.
Well, and also on the other end, Well, also on the other end, like, at what point did it get where kids weren't allowed to have fun playing a game?
It's a fun place.
Like, yeah, like at what point? And again, I get to a point of like, there's a difference between fun and disrespectful.
I get that.
A lot of people are also very triggered. Like, again, if I pimp a homer, flip the bat 350 feet in the air, and then eye down the pitcher the whole way to first base, okay, there's different levels.
There's a line.
But again, if I hit a homer and flip the bat, or do like the hot bat thing, or drop the bat, or do what, like, dude, you also need to. You're also probably just a little bit emotionally charged because I just hit a jack off of you.
Yeah.
Like, throw a better pitch.
Throw a better pitch.
Right? Or the same thing too. Like and I mean, also on the other end, like, who cares if you get a little fiery too? Like,
plus,
be passionate.
It makes the game
play.
fun. Learn something from other sports.
Yeah, let it happen.
These guys celebrate. They have fun. What makes football fun? They celebrate.
Yeah,
I mean, there is more to it than that, but they allow them to celebrate.
Yeah,
NBA,
that's
they
part
have
of
fun.
that's part of the thing. They plan their touchdown celebrations, and now they definitely have to be more mild than they used to be because it got a little crazy.
For sure.
And I get having certain.
I get it.
Again, like,
I get
if a guy hits a homer and then throws the bat into the outfield, okay, you're also endangering other people. There's a way of doing it, right? So like there is other things, but
like I played for guys that we couldn't celebrate doubles.
Yeah. Oh.
We couldn't do anything when we hit singles. So
tell me, okay.
I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I hit a double. I feel cool.
Yeah.
But now I feel like an idiot because I'm standing here like.
What was your favorite second base? Your double like.
The first one I would do was like the butterfly because I had an Evo shield, so I'd like unstrap it or else at summer ball I'd always do the flop it out a little bit.
I'm trying to think of my favorite one. My favorite one in second base. I always like the one where you put the big league guys would do it, but they arm out and they shake the hips.
Wiggle.
Yeah, the little wiggle. I'm in on that. What was yours, Cody? What was your favorite one? In second base?
Mine was definitely this last year. I think I told you guys this story where we had a practice, had some guys throwing bats, so we had a practice where we threw bats to kind of teach us a lesson.
That's a good one.
And then hit a double and did the overhead bat throw because we did that in practice.
Nice.
And that definitely fired the boys up a little bit.
Coach
Yeah, it has to be
personal.
It has to be a personal thing, I think, with the team. And like, it's so funny when you're watching other teams do it. And when you have a team that you're like, it's really cool when you're playing another team that's also secure. Yeah. And you're secure because you guys can have fun
with it. Yeah.
And like it could go back and forth and be like a funny thing where it's like they get the second base and you're like, dude, that was dope.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, screw those guys, bro.
Well,
like,
even at Sterling, like that was kind of the thing. Was like, what's your celebration? It was kind of like, let's see what he does. Like I remember he would always bring something new, and every time like gets the people going. Yeah, it's like when we played Tabor. Yeah, like there was always like friction, but at the same time I was always like, that was a good flex, bro.
Yeah,
every time.
And it was like just respectful, like on the other end of being like, you're good. And it's okay. Again, game recognizes game. On the other thing of just being like, dude, you just hit a ball 450 feet. Like, do your thing. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, and again, I'm not gonna, and I also feel the other way. Like, you feel free to do what you want. Like, I'm not one of those guys that's gonna walk up. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. If a guy hit a double or something, I'd be like, hey man, nice piece. Yeah. Like sometimes something like that would happen. But I'm also not the guy. Like, I do see some of like the little league thing where I think coaches, a lot of that I think is coach taught, where it's like they run to home plate and they like shake his hand. They're like, good job, man. Like, that's good sportsmanship. But it's like, I think that's a little like no player. I mean, I don't really know someone like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but for like the amount of times that it kind of happens, especially on TV, where it's like good sportsmanship, where it's like, hey man, good job, and they walk over, like you peg a guy in the ribs or something like that, and you go over there and you're like, hey man, I'm sorry. And like, I get one thing where you're like, you look over the first base and you're on the mound and you're like, hey man, like, you know, like, hey, sorry about that, or you know, especially if you like clip a guy in the head or you know, whatever, right? And I get there's a little like classy way to do it, but I think there's also like, again, like some things that are way over taught of being like, that's good sportsmanship, and it's like, no, I mean,
it's a fine line, and we talk about that with like the self-organ coaching of like, you still need to let the players just let them have fun and then corral them in. Yeah, you can always corral it in. I feel like coaching that back into kids is kind of tough. Mm-hmm. You have an insecure player trying to make him be confident late, it's a little bit difficult. I feel like you can harness it in a little bit more. I just hate to see young kids that just can't. It just doesn't seem like they're always having fun in baseball. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think that's the thing with like, again, like you want to have fun like let them have fun, because again, like because this is the thing, they're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to teach them to play the game the right way. No, you know what you're going to do? You're going to make him go play basketball.
100%.
That's what you're going to do. You know what you're going to do? You're going to make him go play another sport that he can go and have fun.
Yep.
And again, I'm not saying purely like, again, everything's just going to be fun, or that, again, that you shouldn't, there's never a role for a coach to, harness somebody in, but definitely have gone way too far in the sense of like, and it just like escalates, right? From like, again, it's like, okay, well, my coach did this. Well, I also don't like this, so none of my players are going to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, look, again, there's a respectful way to do things for sure.
100%. I'm not saying be disrespectful.
Yeah.
I think we're all hopefully have enough to filter through what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just remember, all work and no play makes a Garth a dull boy. Let the boys have fun. And honestly, like, that's why I love Dinkle as a coach, because he's a player's coach. And granted, a lot of us needed that, transferring down and kind of being in those environments. I think that's why he does so well. Yeah. Is because he lets people be who they are. Yeah. And he kind of works like subconsciously on that stuff. It's like subtle. He's molding you, but it's like it's a partnership. Yeah.
And also too, again, a lot of that comes back to recruiting, like, and having some feel for, and then, also having a good culture where he's not having to be that guy where, again, you can come up to me or I can come up to you, or, we can have your huddies, or, you have your inner policing that happens on the team where you're just like,
right,
yo, like,
we'll call your ass out.
Yeah. Like, hey, like, you kind of showed up your teammate there. Like, that wasn't cool. I think it was a little far. Like, and also doing it without, being like, an asshole about it. Right. But like when you have a culture of that, again, of also letting guys do what they naturally do, where you hopefully have recruited some leaders, right, on your team. And a lot of people are just trying to like mold all these leaders on their team. Like, okay, that's one thing, but also too, you want to recruit leaders, right? Where the leaders just naturally fall into their role, where it's like, yo, like, again, like, I have no problem going up and talking to somebody and being like, hey man, like, blah, 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 blah.
A little too far.
Yeah, I think you went a little too far on that one. We're in an inter squad and you threw your bat to third base and almost hit our dude in the head. Like, like, chill out.
Off Garth Brooks.
Yeah, chill out. So.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's really what I wanted to talk about today. So
what else you got for him with it? We went on a little bit of a tangent there. What I will say though, we do have the dog farm on display today.
Oh yeah.
We got the pups in.
The pups running around.
We didn't mention it. I'm sure we were at the end. We got the air farm ones.
Yeah, we got the whole
Farm
little
Unfiltered.
setup. The people aren't ready for this.
Yeah, you guys aren't ready.
Ooh.
Before we even cut out, I don't know if you guys have seen this. Have you seen back in the day when Kike was at the Dodgers? Little shirtless
Oh,
BP?
with his shirt. Oh, then the big leagues. That's a whole
in the
nother
big
level.
leagues.
That's a whole nother level right there.
That's
Absolutely.
what I'm saying. But for some reason, and it's always been this way, they're big leaguers. But well, they probably he's probably been that way since he was 7 years old.
Well, Kike is a little like flashy.
A little
with his,
flamboyant.
but again though, he is also I want to say, isn't he Puerto Rican?
I believe so.
My roommate was Puerto Rican back at a UAPB.
I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah. And he was super, again, also too, is like understanding some like culture things. But again, like letting people be there. Like, again, is that really affecting the game? I need to know, especially in that scenario where there's no fans there.
Yeah.
Who cares? Now, again, if there's fans there and there's, there is some feel, right?
Well,
but
even
like,
Stanton will hit with his cutoff.
Yeah. And even then,
a lot of time for BP.
And I get that. I get that whole piece of being like, cool, like, you definitely, it's not a no.
Yeah.
Right. But like, that's also on the other end, like, it's just having some feel for like, there is families and stuff. Like, for example, if some random family or somebody was coming over to visit our house, I wouldn't be walking around with my shirt off. Unless it was like a pool party or something, like,
for sure,
like it's just definitely having some feel.
You should start
like,
letting it hang out a little bit more, Garth.
Garth, you don't want to see this power belly come out, Garth.
Let it hang out.
Working on it.
Yeah, I've been working on this power gut. Been working hard.
I do agree with you though.
Yeah, that's some feel. But again, like in that scenario, right? Like there's no fans there and all that stuff. Like,
well,
who cares?
And I also said this to Demo. I was talking to him. He's talking about not at his school, but just coaching in general. I'm like, these coaches should download TikTok and see the extreme that these kids are seeing. Like, how bad are these kids really? There's some tools out there that are doing some stuff that I'm just like, that's crossing the line.
Yeah.
And the bars, I mean, there's so much shit that's
We should have
acceptable in society now.
we should have a new segment that's like over the line. We'll call it over the line.
Yeah.
And we'll decide.
100%.
We'll just decide. That's disrespectful. Nah, that's okay. I think that we'll have a segment. That'd be hilarious.
We'll pull some clips, from the week that people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pops, and we'll call it over the line or something.
Yeah, there's definitely some TikToks out there where like I don't know if you've seen like high schoolers or college summer ball, and they're mic'd up, and definitely some stuff where you're kind of like, all right, you need to peel that back a little bit.
A little far.
It is, and I think it will continue to go because it looks like it's trying to counterbalance all the conservative that's happened. So I think it will go a little bit far.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna ask you this though too. Do you think, because it's happened in movies, right, where now you go on Netflix and there's like nudity and there's all these other things, right?
Acceptable.
Which like back in the day, like it's like, yo, that was not going to happen,
100%.
right? Now it's like, you can, and even too, like, I mean, I think the rule on that is like if you're paying for it, it's not on public TV. I think there's some regulation between that. But what my whole point is though, is that because obviously it's happened over time, right? Like I say, when we're like cavemen, right?
Yeah.
It was okay to like, you go kill someone and like, oh, he has fire and, whatever, right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously as we've become more civilized and domesticated, right, that all of a sudden there's certain things that it's like, okay, that's, not good, that's a little uncivil. So but I think it's almost like flip-flop the opposite way in certain ways. But do you think that that's really hard for people to wrap their head around because what used to be okay is no longer okay, or what used to be not okay is now okay?
I think,
and like,
I think to your point, what's happened is that, and Gary Vee talks about this a little bit, the technology advancement that's happened in like 10 years, there wasn't really a choice for this generation that's like, it's unacceptable. It's like, it's being delivered to your phone. Like whether you like it or not, it's happened. And it's happened so quick. Like you go from the computer being made in I think Google launched late 90s to now TikTok. All of that happened within 20 years. So I think a lot of this generation is still playing catch up. They didn't really have a choice to say no. It was just delivered to their phone. And society never said like, stop. Like it's just happened. And so now it's like, you just have all of this stuff that's bombarding us and nobody really has a say to be like, no. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a tough thing to answer. Like it is happening, but I think it's forcing a lot of people into like an uncomfortable state of acceptance.
But that's what I'm saying too. That's what I'm saying though. Like, do you think it's going to happen again
the
a decade from now? No, and not even just the opposite way. Just like, put it this way. There's plenty of things from 20 years ago, like you have like politically, right, where you'll have these like this cancel culture where people will come back and be like, hey, 20 years ago, you said X.
Yeah.
And we have video of it.
For sure.
You need to pay for that now. We're not taking in at the time that it was okay. It was socially okay.
100%.
And now socially it's not okay.
Yeah.
But again, are you going to now, again, like I almost think of it like this. That's like doing something 20 years ago and now all of a sudden today they make it illegal.
You're being held accountable for it still.
Now I'm being arrested for something that literally wasn't a law.
Yeah.
That wasn't even against the law.
Yeah.
Right? And now it's a crime. Right. And I know there's instances of that, of like they have to create new laws because, technology is advancing. There's different crimes that are happening.
Yep.
But and again, I don't know how necessarily they've gone through those weeds there. But I just want to, I was thinking the same thing too, is that again, like somebody, 10 years from now is going to dig up our podcast and be like, you said X.
100%.
Right. You shouldn't
I mean, it's going to be scary, the stuff they're doing with VR. It's going to be a little bit insane, I think, what technology will be able to do and how far it's going to advance. I do think within 10 years it might be cool to not have a lot of this stuff. I think it might go the opposite way, to where it's like, I mean, you already see the Samsungs. They have like flip phones coming back, and I think it's going to reverse just because, like you're saying, I think it's going to go too far. There is still a lot of diminishing returns. Like OnlyFans can get so big, or some of these platforms can get so big to where it's saturated, and it'll be cool to almost like flip back the opposite way. Or I think it's going to be like virtual reality. I mean, you already see that with like Win reality. I think it's going to progress more into like the VR and like the TikTok. I think it's getting a little bit too saturated, honestly.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting. I also think on the other end of like yeah, then like things will naturally like correct.
Yeah.
But I also think on the other end of that there'll also be a natural correction of what we see. There's a lot of things that push us.
For sure.
And then we actually have to evaluate the idea and go,
yep.
does it really matter?
For sure.
Or again, what was holding us back of why it wasn't okay before?
Right.
Is that still true today?
For sure.
Right, where those things change, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
we talk about this thing with things that happen in our company. Like, we used to do things this way because our company had these constraints. Are those constraints no longer there? Do we need to keep operating this way?
Yep.
And then we change,
For
right?
sure.
Which, and there's certain rules and there's things that have been put into place right now because of what's happening and socially, but also too, like, again, at some point that's going to flip flop a different way, and then people will be like, does it really matter? So, I think there's all that.
I think it will be interesting, to your point, the accountability piece that's going to come with that. That's the one thing that I think about, is that like how many people are doing things not understanding that everything's being tracked. At some point they'll probably pull your Snapchat records and everything else. Like you saw that with the governor from Florida with the Venmo. He gets banged for Venmoing underage girls' money. Him thinking when he did it, they can't track me. Tracking everything.
Yeah.
That's the
You're
one
also
thing.
you're also an idiot.
100%.
I mean,
it is.
I mean, if you're gonna be, it's like being a criminal. Like criminal 101, bro. Cash. I'm not saying
For
what
sure.
he did was okay, but I'm just saying that you're also an idiot if you're doing anything
100%.
electronically and thinking that there isn't record somewhere.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
That's dumb.
It's like Robert Kraft, though. You have like that whole generation that just doesn't have enough feel.
Yeah, they don't really
that are
know.
realizing like, bro, like,
Yeah,
you
you kind of again, you just kind of deserve it.
Yeah, I
like
agree.
don't be an idiot.
Don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't be an idiot.
jumping into some of like the advancements. I was reading something this weekend, and it was talking about how, like basically, there's so many innovators anymore. Like everyone wants to be an innovator. They want to create something, and because it's happening so fast, us as humans, we actually, used to have this like emotional connection to things. Like, want to hold on to this, but things are happening like so fast. And I had this conversation with my brother. Like, a speaker comes out. You get this cool Bluetooth speaker, but then everything's happening so fast, and then there's a new speaker that comes out. Like you get the AirPods, then the new AirPods come out, and you just want to recycle it and just start getting a new thing.
Yeah.
And I was like starting to think about that in like baseball terms. Some people don't want to go away, like they're stuck in the old school way, and then some people are just so like recycle, just keep doing the new thing, keep doing the new thing, keep doing the new thing. And I was like thinking about that and how far down like a rabbit hole I went when it comes to machine work, stop hitting off the tee, but then you lose sight of, okay, well really the tee work really helped. Like it helped me a ton. I didn't have to keep adapting with the new changes all you even though that's what feels like we should do, because it's happening so fast, and we have this feeling of having to catch up.
I think you should. What I think you should do, and again, I think it's a natural process to be okay with. And I've kind of talked about it, like it being like a branch of a tree. Is that you can only run down a branch of a tree so far till you realize that like really it's a branch, and it's not actually the, what do you call it? Like the
Trunk.
Yeah, like the trunk of the tree. So like you run down that branch and you realize it's a dead end, and you're like, oh crap, I need to double back. But also too, it's like then you get better and better of not running so far down those branches. But I think this is the thing. Like I think that we should always be trying innovative things and realizing, okay, to what capacity should I be using this? And then also to the point, let's keep running down so I understand, okay, now of law of diminishing returns, like when does that stop? When does it stop giving me returns?
Yeah.
Because I want to keep pushing it until you're like, okay, you know what? This cap here is like, if I use it for X, Y, and Z, or if I use, because again, T also is a branch of a tree, right? It has a limited capacity. It can only give you so much.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the other piece as well. Like it's not to go like, oh, I should all be T, or I should all be machine, or I should all be this, or I should all be front toss, or I should all be angle toss, or I should all be X, or I should only be these 5 drills, and I should only be this. Like, and also it also doesn't mean that I should have 9 billion trillion drills that I'm trying to do with the same guy. Like there's.
Well, and I agree with your point, and also to Cody's point, people just lose the appreciation of what it takes because it happens so often. Like people appreciate the greatness because all these big leaguers now throwing 100 miles an hour, hitting 30 home runs, and doing their thing. Like the tree thing, it's like climb the tree far enough to where you can actually go out on a limb. People try to just skip climbing the tree and building their branch. And it's like innovating's happening so fast. Like you're saying, we lose the appreciation of like what's actually happening and what technology really is being built and like what everybody in the space is doing. And you just take it like everybody's an Elon Musk or everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody can be an entrepreneur, which don't get me wrong, everybody can, but you lose like that appreciation for
Not everyone can be a
for what it's
successful one.
doing. For sure.
Everyone can be an entrepreneur. You could start a business tomorrow, but again, everybody can be a baseball player. It doesn't mean you're going to be good at it.
100%.
So, like, I think that's the other side of, like you're saying, is like, I think you also build a deeper appreciation by trying to be it.
100%.
So, like,
Realize how hard
again,
it is.
go build. All right. You know, Bezos, you know, you got all this money, blah, blah, blah. Go build an Amazon.
For sure.
Go build an Amazon.
For sure.
If it's so easy and all those other things, like, go do it.
Yep.
Like,
There's a reason you're not doing it.
Yeah, and also on the other end, like, don't get me wrong, again, on the other opposite side, like, is there not corrections and, the market, but, like, again, like, that's always been true, right? That, like, the same thing for you as a baseball team, right? Like, okay, me as a baseball team, if I realize that, look, I'm not breaking the rules. I'm not breaking the rules. I'm not doing these other things. Like, let's say all of a sudden tomorrow, let's just say tomorrow, let's say all of a sudden tomorrow, you cannot give any signs from the dugout. You were doing it yesterday.
Yeah.
Were you breaking the rules? No. Well, now they're saying, well, now it's a competitive advantage and yada yada yada, and now you can't give any dugouts from the dugout, right? Like, you're going to take advantage of everything you can do to win.
For sure.
That is right? And then all of a sudden tomorrow, if they say you can't do that and that's cheating,
Yep.
right? Like, and then obviously too, if you're doing something right now that is cheating, well, then you're cheating.
You're cheating.
But on the other end, if you're doing something that is not against the rules, and all of a sudden tomorrow they say that it's cheating, right? Or they got to make other corrections because you found a hole in the system.
Yep.
Okay, that's a different thing. So I think like with that is like coming in, like, you know, like we're saying there is like down all these different things is like, yo, let's be innovative.
For sure.
Anything that we think could work or could help, let's try.
Yep.
And also too, and again, obviously again, if it's against the law,
Yep.
right? Then you're a criminal.
Yeah.
If it's cheating, well, then you're cheating,
Yeah.
right? But if it's not, let's try it. And
Yeah.
then later on, if they say that now that it's cheating, well, then
For sure.
then you stop, don't do it.
For sure.
Right? So like, that's the other piece I think like with there is just like understanding like those other things. It's like, well, let's try everything.
Try everything.
Try everything.
Just know the fundamentals. That was my main point.
Yeah, the base.
Just have a good base and be innovative as you want after that.
Yeah.
But don't try to shortcut the process.
Yeah.
And just
But the biggest thing I think that people do is they mistake a branch for the, what'd you call it?
the trunk.
The trunk. A lot of people mistake the branch for the trunk.
For sure.
They think like this is too often, and I still catch myself doing this, trying to treat symptoms.
Always.
Oh, and then you realize
Good
you're like,
majority of coaches
this
do.
is a symptom, not the root.
And it's tough.
And you have to try
It
to
is
treat the
tough.
symptom to realize that you're like, oh, this is, that's got better-ish, but it keeps coming back because I'm not actually fixing the problem. I'm just getting the sniffing, the sniffy
yeah,
nose to go
sniffing
away.
To go away. It is tough. It is a tough job, especially colleges. You only have so much time, but
Utilize your resources.
it all ties back in, man. Like you started the podcast with, it's your fault.
Yeah.
The end of the day, man, your win-loss record. That's what one thing I respect Eric Mattson to death. My coach, I love the guy.
Yeah.
He'd always take ownership of that. Look,
Yep.
we're 10 games below 500.
Yep.
It's my fault.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, as hard as he was on me, that's my fault.
Yeah. Well, and also this is the other thing I always say. Look, coaches that complain about their situation of their office or what are those other things, right? Or administration, all this stuff. Yo, you took the job.
Yep.
And if you don't like the scenario, don't sit here and blame everybody else,
Yep.
right? At the end of the day, pick a job where you know you could be successful,
Yep.
right? And again, if you can't, either one, change your situation.
Yep.
2, find another way.
Yep.
3, stop complaining
100%.
and just say, you're right. I'm doing my best. Maybe there is. Let me this humility statement. Maybe there is somebody else that could come in and do my job better than me.
100%.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Maybe there is.
Maybe there is. Again, and I'm not saying that like because this is the thing. For example, if I go to Utah and I coach a team, I might have a lot more constraints than someone that was born and raised in Utah, knows everybody in the community,
Yep.
knows resources out there, knows other facilities I can outsource my guys to for training,
100%.
knows other batting cages for indoor because it snows all the time. Well, okay, cool. Right? That guy's going to be more successful than me, most likely,
100%.
because he has all these other resources that
You don't have.
I don't have. But again, I need to know that walking into that job.
100%.
I'll have a lot more resources in certain areas than others because of your contacts, because of where you grew up, because of you understanding the culture, because of you understanding how your administration is probably going to act, because of what area you're in town. Again, if you don't know those things, I know some of those things you're going to figure out when you actually start coaching.
Yeah, you'll
but also,
figure it
too, you're also going to realize, too, you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times you didn't ask the right questions and you weren't vetted. And now when you go back into it again, you go like, these are the questions I would have asked.
Yeah, well,
And
that's
ask for advice from mentors and all that stuff.
I was going to say that earlier. Is I think that's a lot of the problem with getting recruited and recruiting, is it's almost like a sales game instead of just being honest. And I take ownership of that. I didn't always ask the right questions, and then that was my insecurity. Is now I'm a little bit unhappy, and I'm projecting it, even though it was my fault. Goes back to my fault. Same with coaches. You accept a job without asking the right questions. You show up. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
You get mad at everybody else.
Yeah.
It's your fucking fault, man.
Yeah. Well, and also on the other end, you might need to get fired a couple times.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? I say this.
Fell a couple times.
I say this on the other end. I've never been fired. I'm trying to think. I've never been fired, so I don't want it to come off like it's like easy to say like, oh man, I've been fired 6 times, right? But I have moved on.
Yeah, there's a
To the point where a lot of times people get fired though. In certain situations, there's different constraints and different jobs and stuff that you have. So I'm not going to say like there's certain situations where like big league hitting coaches are getting fired and they're good, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. Like there's sometimes things that are just a little out of your control,
You got to save face.
right? And I get that.
Organizations.
But in general too, a lot of times a lot of people get fired too because they stay too long. They overstay their welcome, or like like you're naive about you actually being able to be successful here.
Yep.
Right. And like you've gotten to the point where it's become a toxic relationship with your job.
Definitely.
Right. Where everybody's pointing fingers at each other. Nothing's really getting done. The kids aren't really, getting a lot of benefit from it. And again, not saying that they're not getting any benefit from it, but if somebody else came in, it probably would be better.
For sure.
So I think that's like part of that piece is like a lot of times too, it's just like, it's time for you to move on.
It's just time to move on.
It's just time to move on. And not saying you couldn't be successful somewhere else. You might suck in Utah and be great in Reno. Go
For
do your
sure.
thing, bro.
Go do it. Go do your thing.
So, and again, not everybody can just move and go other places. I'm not saying that, but also too, I'm also going to say on that other end, that's also your fault because coaches around the nation, I told you that with like, when I was working at Planet Fitness, when I had to fire my best friend, he goes, bro, I don't know what the company wants me to do, man. I just got a newborn and I got another kid. And I said, I actually have 2 other GMs that all have, 1-year-olds or, infants, right? And also 2, I have a couple GMs that have like 5 kids, bro.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, it's okay if you can't get it done because of your constraints and your life and all these other things. But at the end of the day, this is a multi-million-dollar facility that if you can't get it done, I'm going to bring somebody in that will.
For sure.
Yeah, I get you got your own personal things going on in your life and whatever you got going on, but you're here. I hired you to get it done.
Yep.
If you don't get it done, if you hired a plumber, he comes in your house and he doesn't get it done,
Yep.
you're going to fire him and get another plumber.
For sure.
So in coaching in a lot of ways, at some point, they say when we talked to Justin Stone just the other day, right? Justin Stone, he said that he's like, I know I took this job knowing I'm going to get fired.
For sure.
Not a year from now, hopefully not 2 years from now, hopefully not 3 years from now, but at some point, you especially on that level, a professional level,
you'll get fired.
I know I'm going to get fired.
Yep.
At some point.
Have to.
Right. So and that's part of the process. And again, maybe I'll just go to another club and everything will be good. But I already knew, he already knows that walking in, like, I'm probably going to get fired.
For sure.
At some point. Right. Not everybody's like, and again, most people in coaching jobs usually get fired.
Yeah.
Like at some point.
Or resign, like you said.
Yeah.
More
I mean,
like a resignation.
Don't be wrong. You got your
shake hands.
You got your LSUs where guys are there for, I've been here for 40 years.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
For sure.
Again, and also too, you're probably a great coach.
Yeah.
That's why you stayed around. Your winning record is freaking 85%.
For sure.
You're pretty good.
Those institutions
You're pretty
also will
good.
shit can your ass after 2 years.
100%.
So
You better be lucky. Sometimes, especially if you're a new coach and you have one bad year,
yeah, you're
yeah,
you're
they're used to winning.
You're done.
You might get shit canned quick.
I don't care who you are, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
For
that's why a lot of times a lot of those guys that go in there usually get multi-year contracts
For
'cause you
sure.
need some time. But
Yep.
yeah, but yeah,
What else you got?
that's it.
People.
I think that's all I got.
It's your fault.
Yeah,
Is that how we're ending it?
it's your fault.